There is a peculiar ache in realizing that what you thought was warmth might have been a mirage. That smile, those words, those small gestures that once made your heart bloom. They now linger like shadows, leaving an unsettling chill in their wake. We are drawn to love because it promises connection, understanding, and safety. Yet sometimes what we call affection is only a reflection of someone else's need, their manipulation, or their own unresolved longing. And when the illusion fades, we are left with the weight of being misled, of having given ourselves fully to something that was never ours to hold. The first whisper of doubt. Perhaps it begins subtly. A missed promise, a glance that doesn't quite meet yours, a warmth that feels uneven. You convince yourself it's temporary, that stress, fatigue, or circumstance explains the gap. You tell yourself that the love is real. It must be because it feels so tangible. But deep inside, a quiet whisper questions the reality. That whisper says, does this feel safe? Am I truly seen? Or am I only appreciated for the light I bring into someone else's world? It is the first recognition of illusion. The moment you realize that not all affection is genuine, not all intimacy is honest, and that sometimes love wears a mask, soft and enticing, but hollow beneath. Story 1. Naomi and the Gentle Mirage. Naomi thought she had found someone who understood her completely. The texts were constant, the calls attentive, the moments shared seemed tender and profound. Yet over time she noticed patterns. Attention only when convenient, praise only when it served their ego, care that vanished when she needed it most. The warmth she felt was real, up to a point, but it was selective, conditional, and ultimately incomplete. Naomi realized that what she had mistaken for affection was in many ways a reflection of the other person's needs, not a gift freely given. The revelation was painful. It forced her to confront a truth many avoid. The illusion of affection is often the first step toward emotional manipulation, and recognizing it is the beginning of reclaiming your power. The psychology behind false affection. Why does this happen? Why do we so often mistake convenience, attention, or selective kindness for true love? Projection. Some people offer love as a mirror, reflecting their desires and needs, rather than engaging with your authentic self. Their gestures may feel warm, but they are projections of their own fears or longings. Conditional care. Affection given only when convenient, or only when it benefits them, creates a pattern of reinforcement that can feel addictive yet hollow. Manipulation of attachment. Our brains are wired to seek connection and approval. When someone offers selective warmth, it can trigger deep emotional responses, making us cling to what is not fully present. Understanding these patterns is not about cynicism. It is about awareness. It is about seeing clearly so that you may protect your heart, rather than surrendering it to shadows. Story 2. Elias and the Glow. That faded Elias cherished the early days of a new friendship. Words were generous, laughter frequent, and attention constant. It felt effortless, intoxicating. Yet as months passed, he noticed the subtle gaps, missed messages, disinterest in his triumphs, a coldness he hadn't anticipated. He confronted the reality. The affection he had leaned on was not consistent because it was not unconditional. It had been partial, filtered through the other person's convenience and desire for control. Elias felt a pang of grief, not because he was unloved, but because he had invested in a reflection rather than the reality. And yet, that grief became a turning point, a signal that his heart deserved clarity, honesty, and reciprocity. Signs you may be experiencing. Illusion recognizing false affection is rarely simple. It is often subtle, woven into moments of warmth and care. Some signs include selective attention. They show affection only when it suits them. Emotional inconsistency. Warmth and distance fluctuate without clear reason. Conditional gestures. Praise or attention comes with unspoken expectations. Emotional dependence. You feel compelled to give more to maintain the connection than they give in return. These signs do not always mean the person is malicious. They may not even realize the impact of their behavior, but acknowledging the patterns allows you to protect yourself from emotional depletion. Story 3. Lena's awakening. Lena had always prided herself on her empathy and generosity. She poured herself into relationships, believing that effort and warmth would guarantee authenticity in return. Yet she noticed a recurring pattern. Certain people responded only when they needed comfort, affirmation, or support. The affection felt real, and for moments it was. But Lena realized she had been responding to an illusion, a reflection of their desires, not her true worth. The awakening was humbling and liberating. She learned that love cannot be forced, that warmth cannot be demanded, and that true connection requires both clarity and reciprocity. The emotional cost of illusion-false affection leaves subtle scars. It teaches the mind to doubt, the heart to question, and the soul to second-guess. You may feel confusion. Was I imagining it, or was the warmth genuine? Insecurity. Why wasn't I enough to receive consistent care? Loneliness. Even when they are present, you feel unseen. Grief. Mourning not only the connection, but the trust you gave so freely. This cost is heavy, but it is also informative. It reveals what your heart truly needs. Honesty, attention that is freely given, and the courage to seek it without compromise. Story 4. Marcus and the Lessons of the Heart. Marcus believed he had found someone whose affection was unwavering. For weeks he felt adored and appreciated. Slowly, cracks appeared, plans ignored, calls delayed, emotional distance growing. The illusion of love was revealed. At first, Marcus blamed himself. He questioned whether he had failed to meet some invisible standard. But with reflection, he recognized the truth. The inconsistency was never his fault. The warmth was partial, conditional, and fleeting. This understanding shifted his perspective. He stopped chasing approval that was never fully offered, and began investing in relationships where authenticity, consistency, and mutual care existed. The illusion of affection had taught him discernment, boundaries, and the value of true connection. Metaphor. The candle that burns for others. Imagine a candle burning brightly in a room. You lean into its warmth, feeling comforted and safe. But slowly, you notice it flickers, dims, and occasionally goes out entirely. You realize the flame was never steady, never meant to illuminate your space fully. It was fragile, conditional, and limited by its own capacity. False affection is like that candle. It warms, it glows, it invites intimacy, but it cannot sustain you fully. Recognizing the limitations allows you to find or become a flame that burns steadily, offering warmth without inconsistency, light without conditionality. Closing reflection. The illusion of affection is not a failure on your part. It is an opportunity to see clearly, to recognize patterns, and to protect the heart that so generously gives. It asks you to pause, to reflect, and to understand that what feels like love is not always what nourishes your soul. As you carry this understanding forward, remember, your desire for connection is sacred. Your heart deserves warmth that is constant, care that is genuine, and attention that is not fleeting. The illusions you encounter are lessons, not punishments, and they prepare you to recognize authenticity when it finally arrives. But what feels like love often hides darker intentions. In the next section, we will explore the psychology behind these patterns, the motives, fears, and needs that drive selective affection, and how understanding them can protect and empower your heart. There is a moment when the warmth you once trusted begins to feel thin, like morning mist dissipating under sunlight. The realization hits. Sometimes what felt like love was never fully genuine. And as painful as it is, understanding why humans fake affection can illuminate truths about both them and yourself. Deception in love isn't always malicious. Often it is born of fear, insecurity, or unmet needs. Yet the effect is the same. Hearts are misled, trust is shaken, and souls are left questioning their own worth. Why people fake love self-interest and gain. Some display affection to serve their own purposes. The warmth, the praise, the intimacy. It is all a tool, consciously or unconsciously wielded, to extract something they desire. Validation, control, comfort, or even status. Imagine a colleague who lavishes attention when they need a favor, only to vanish when you might need support. Or a partner whose words are sweet when convenient, but actions betray indifference. This is not always conscious manipulation. Sometimes it is simply the human instinct to protect one's own interests, but the emotional cost to the other person is real. Control and powerful affection can also be a way to maintain influence. When someone gives warmth selectively, unpredictably, or conditionally, it creates dependency. You start to crave their approval, seek their attention, and anticipate their validation, not realizing that their power over your emotional state is what truly drives their behavior. This type of behavior often appears in romantic relationships, friendships, or even familial bonds. The pattern is subtle. Small rewards of affection, intermittent praise, occasional attention. These moments are enough to keep you emotionally tethered, even as the overall connection lacks authenticity. Story 1. Hannah and the Shifting Flame. Hannah had always trusted the sincerity of her friend's affection. Texts, compliments, and gestures made her feel valued, seen, and appreciated. But she began noticing irregularities. Times when her calls went unanswered for days. Promises broken without explanation. Warmth that felt performative. The affection she relied on was a tool, not meant to harm, but serving the other person's need to feel important and admired. Each kind word or gentle touch was a calculated balance, enough to maintain her engagement without fully committing to honesty or emotional consistency. The realization was jarring. The love she had believed in was, at least in part, a reflection of the other person's insecurities and desire for control. Insecurity and fear of loneliness, some fake love, because they fear being alone. They crave the connection that validates them, even if it means pretending, masking true feelings, or offering partial affection. This is perhaps one of the most common and yet most painful forms of deception. The person may care in some capacity, but their need to avoid isolation overrides authenticity. Their affection may feel warm, even loving, but it is fragile, conditional, and often inconsistent. Emotional immaturity. Human beings often struggle to manage their own feelings responsibly. Emotional immaturity can lead to faking connection because the person is incapable of full vulnerability, cannot communicate openly, or simply avoids the discomfort of difficult emotions. They might compliment, engage, and even act caring. But when it comes to real accountability, consistency, or empathy, they retreat. The warmth you perceive is genuine in moments, but unreliable and incomplete. Story 2. Daniel's lessons in awareness. Daniel found himself repeatedly drawn to a partner whose love was inconsistent. They would shower him with attention, affection, and care, only to withdraw unpredictably. Each retreat caused him to question his own value. Had he done something wrong? Had he failed to love properly? Over time, Daniel began to see the pattern. Their behavior was not a reflection of his worth, but of their insecurities, fear of vulnerability, and desire for control. The affection he had mistaken for proof of love was partially an illusion, crafted by human needs and limitations. Recognizing this freed him from self-blame and allowed him to place his trust more deliberately, choosing relationships where warmth was authentic and reliable. Psychological mechanisms at play. Intermittent reinforcement. Of the most powerful psychological tools in deception is intermittent reinforcement, the unpredictability of attention and affection. When positive behaviors are inconsistent, the mind becomes hyper-focused on them, seeking validation with increasing intensity. This explains why even small gestures of false love can feel intoxicating, drawing you in despite the underlying inconsistency. Cognitive dissonance. When someone behaves inconsistently, your brain struggles to reconcile the loving actions with the neglectful ones. Cognitive dissonance can create self-doubt, making you question whether you are overreacting or misinterpreting the situation. This internal conflict keeps you attached, even when clarity would allow you to step away. Attachment triggers. False affection often activates deep attachment patterns. People with anxious attachment may overinvest, seeking constant reassurance, while those with avoidant tendencies may withdraw, fearing intimacy. Recognizing how deception interacts with your own attachment style is crucial to breaking cycles of emotional vulnerability. Story 3. Mara and the illusion of stability. Mara's romantic partner displayed love that seemed steadfast, but small cracks appeared. Broken promises, delayed responses, inconsistent care. Initially, Mara blamed herself, wondering if her expectations were too high. Gradually, she understood the truth. Their affection was inconsistent because of their fear of vulnerability and need for control. Mara realized she had been responding to the illusion, not the reality. This awareness allowed her to reclaim emotional space and invest in relationships where authenticity was present. The emotional impact of deception. Consequences of encountering false love can be subtle yet profound. Self-doubt. You may question your worth, your judgment, or your ability to recognize authenticity. Emotional fatigue. Constantly interpreting motives and seeking clarity drains mental and emotional energy. Trust erosion. Repeated exposure can make future connections feel risky, leading to withdrawal or overcautiousness. Grief and confusion. Mourning what seemed real, while processing the reality of partial affection, can leave lingering sorrow. These effects are natural and human, but they can be mitigated with understanding, reflection, and discernment. Story 4. Tomas and the Path to Clarity. Tomas experienced a relationship where love felt conditional. He received attention when convenient, affection when desired, and engagement only when it suited his partner. The initial warmth felt genuine, but inconsistencies created emotional turbulence. By studying the patterns, the why behind the behavior, Thomas realized the affection was intertwined with insecurity, fear, and self-interest. Recognizing these motivations allowed him to detach emotionally, reclaim his boundaries, and pursue connections grounded in mutual respect and consistency. Metaphor. The mirage in the desert. Imagine walking across a sun-scorched desert. In the distance, a pool of water shimmers, promising relief and life. You run toward it, driven by thirst and hope, only to find sand and illusion. False affection is much like that mirage, captivating, inviting, but ultimately hollow. It teaches you where to look for sustenance, how to recognize reality, and how to protect yourself from chasing illusions that leave you parched. Reflection and preparation. Understanding the psychology of deception does not make the pain less real. The longing, the heartbreak, the sense of betrayal, they are all valid. But awareness transforms the experience. It shifts the focus from self-blame to comprehension, from confusion to discernment, and from longing to empowered choice. As you move forward, consider these truths. Not every affection you encounter is genuine, and that's not a reflection of your worth. Recognizing patterns protects your heart and guides you toward authentic relationships. Awareness allows you to set boundaries, honor your needs, and reclaim emotional agency. But it's not just about them. The deeper effect of this deception on your own mind and heart is even more revealing. How it shapes your thoughts, fuels doubt, and quietly erodes your peace is what we'll uncover in the next section. And in understanding that, you will begin to see not only their motives, but the path to safeguarding your own heart. There's a subtle collapse that follows the end of a love you thought was real. A quiet erosion that happens long before anyone walks away or disappears. It is not always loud or dramatic. It begins in the silence between messages, the hesitation behind compliments, the inconsistencies that whisper doubt into your mind. When love turns out to be partial, conditional, or performative, it leaves more than heartbreak. It leaves confusion, self-questioning, and a profound mistrust, not only of the other person, but of your own capacity to judge and feel. The first cracks: doubt and self-blame. The human mind is a storyteller. When affection falters or proves illusory, it instinctively searches for explanations, often turning inward. Questions multiply. Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs? Could I have loved differently? These thoughts loop endlessly, each one a nail in the fragile structure of self-confidence. You replay moments, analyze conversations, dissect smiles and silences. Your mind becomes a theater of what-ifs and if-onlys. This is not vanity. It is the natural human response to betrayal and disillusionment. Your brain wants coherence, and when reality fails to offer it, it improvises. Unfortunately, the improvisation often comes at the cost of self-esteem. Story 1. Lena's spirulina had believed in a love that promised constancy and care. At first, there were words and gestures that made her feel cherished, but gradually the warmth became inconsistent. Calls went unanswered, messages left unread, plans cancelled without explanation. She began to blame herself. Perhaps she had been too demanding, too cautious, too silent. Each fluctuation in affection fueled her own inner critique. She overanalyzed, reread conversations, and searched for hidden meaning in every tone. The deception, intentional or not, did not only shape her perception of the other person, it reshaped how she saw herself. Unsure, fragile, and perpetually second-guessing. Emotional confusion. When heart and mind collide, false love doesn't only wound, it confuses. Your heart may feel warmth, your mind sees red flags, and your emotions swing wildly between hope and despair. You may find yourself longing for someone who gives only partial attention, hoping for authenticity that never comes. This conflict produces emotional fatigue. It is exhausting to feel strongly for someone while simultaneously sensing the illusion. Each emotional surge, joy, tenderness, anticipation, is accompanied by anxiety, doubt, and fear. Story 2. Matteo and the Tug of Illusion. Matteo fell for a partner who seemed caring, but was inconsistent in both words and actions. He found himself trapped in a cycle. When they were affectionate, he felt elated. When they withdrew, he felt hollow. This intermittent pattern became a constant puzzle. Matteo questioned himself relentlessly. Did he overreact? Was he misinterpreting kindness as love? Slowly, the confusion began to erode his sense of certainty in every relationship. Even outside this particular connection, he doubted his ability to trust and be trusted. The erosion of trust, one of the most insidious consequences of fake love, is the erosion of trust. Not only do you begin to doubt the person who misled you, but you start to doubt your own judgment. You may ask yourself, can I read people correctly? Will I ever know real affection again? How will I protect myself from being deceived again? Trust, once fractured, changes how you interact with everyone. Friends, family, potential partners. You may build walls, hesitate to share, or overanalyze every gesture. It is a defensive reflex, yet it can also isolate you from the very connections you crave. Story 3. Sophia and the Weight of Mistrust. Sophia experienced a relationship where love was performative. Words were given generously, actions rarely followed. Over time, she began to question not just her partner's sincerity, but her own capacity to discern truth. Even after the relationship ended, the impact lingered. Sophia found herself hesitant to engage in new relationships, skeptical of declarations of affection, and hyper-aware of subtle inconsistencies. The internal fallout from fake love had quietly reshaped her emotional landscape, leaving her cautious and withdrawn. Overthinking and mental exhaustion. When deception enters a relationship, the mind cannot rest. You replay moments, scan conversations, and invent narratives to make sense of what occurred. Every text, every smile, every gesture is scrutinized, catalogued, and interpreted. This mental churn is draining. Sleep becomes shallow, concentration falters, and emotional reactions are heightened. You may find yourself ruminating late into the night, revisiting interactions that cannot be changed, seeking closure that may never exist. Metaphor: the candle that burns unevenly. Imagine a candle burning unevenly, sometimes bright, sometimes flickering, sometimes dim. You adjust it, move it, coax it, hoping it will burn steadily. Fake love is like that candle. You are drawn to its light, even as it fails to illuminate consistently. You invest energy trying to stabilize it, not realizing that its inconsistency is not your responsibility. The candle's flicker teaches you about impermanence, about limits, and about the necessity of preserving your own light. Emotional self-protection. The internal fallout is also a protective mechanism. Your mind is trying to safeguard your heart by analyzing, questioning, and seeking patterns. While exhausting, this process can eventually lead to clarity. It is natural to experience hypervigilance, noticing subtle shifts in behavior, tone, or attention. Emotional avoidance, pulling back to prevent further pain. Critical self-reflection, examining your own reactions, boundaries and choices. Though difficult, these reactions are part of recalibrating your emotional system. They are signals that your heart is learning to distinguish between authenticity and illusion. Story 4. Eli and the Path to Awareness. Eli experienced a relationship where affection was inconsistent, at times vibrant, at times absent. The internal fallout was immediate. He doubted himself, questioned his judgment, and felt emotionally exhausted. But over time, he began to recognize the signs, patterns of withdrawal, selective attention, and performative kindness. Understanding the psychology behind the behavior, fear, insecurity, and self-interest, helped Eli separate his worth from their actions. His overthinking transformed from self-punishment to self-awareness. The ripple effect on future relationships' fake love leaves subtle, lingering effects. You may hesitate to trust new partners. You may overanalyze intentions, seeing manipulation where there is none. You may feel emotionally fatigued, needing space to restore balance. The key is recognizing that these responses are natural, protective, and ultimately teach resilience. They are not evidence that you are weak, but that your emotional system is adjusting to preserve integrity and well-being. Reflection and self-compassion. The internal fallout is painful, but it also creates opportunity. Reflection allows you to identify patterns you may have overlooked, strengthen emotional boundaries, rebuild self-trust, choose relationships that align with authenticity and mutual care. Self-compassion is critical here. Recognize that your pain is valid, your confusion understandable, and your heart capable of healing. And left unchecked, this false love can quietly erode your sense of self, leading to a breaking point, a moment where anger, grief, and despair collide. That breaking point is where many find clarity, understanding, and the first spark of empowerment. In the next section, we will step into that emotional climax, the point where the internal fallout becomes a catalyst for transformation. Not just pain. There comes a moment in every false love, subtle at first, then undeniable when the veil falls. The warmth you once clung to begins to feel hollow. The promises once whispered now echo with emptiness. You realize, sometimes in a flash, sometimes in a slow, painful unraveling, that the person you loved, the affection you relied on, was never fully real. It hits differently depending on who you are, your history, and the depth of investment you placed in them. For some, it is a quiet, creeping awareness. For others, it's a gut punch of recognition that leaves your chest aching and your mind racing. Either way, it is devastating. The first crack: betrayal and disbelief. When you confront the truth, disbelief often comes first. Your brain protests, no, it can't be. They wouldn't. You replay interactions, searching for proof that your heart was wrong. that your perception is flawed. Betrayal is not just about their deceit. It's about the trust you offered freely, the vulnerability you risked, the moments you shared openly. And now, standing in the light of reality, you see that much of what you felt was carefully constructed, a mask designed to look like love, but lacking its depth. Story 4. Walking Forward. Daniel had endured years of inconsistent romantic affection. After awakening to the facade and following the steps of healing, he noticed subtle changes. He smiled without seeking approval. He spoke without fear of rejection. And he felt lightness in solitude. He did not rush into new love. He cultivated self-respect, nurtured meaningful friendships, and redefined connection on his terms. Healing was the bridge between past hurt and future fulfillment. Closing. Reflection healing from pretend love is not linear. There will be moments of doubt, flashbacks or longing. Yet each conscious step, trusting your instincts, enforcing boundaries, choosing wisely, and nurturing self-compassion, builds a foundation for authentic emotional life. Your heart, once manipulated, now learns to navigate the world with clarity. You no longer chase illusions. You no longer sacrifice self-respect for fleeting warmth. You stand firmly, aware of your value, and capable of discerning love that is honest, consistent, and nourishing. But healing alone is not enough. Awareness, boundaries, and self-compassion lay the groundwork. Yet the deeper transformation comes when we integrate wisdom, the psychological, emotional, and spiritual lessons that turn pain into clarity and guide our future connections. That wisdom is what we explore in the next section. Pain, especially the kind inflicted by pretend love, carries a paradoxical gift. The deeper the wound, the sharper the lessons. It teaches discernment, strengthens boundaries, and illuminates truths about human connection that cannot be grasped in comfort alone. The heart, after being deceived, is like a raw instrument. Its strings are sensitive, its resonance heightened. Yet through intentional reflection and understanding, it can play a melody of insight, depth, and clarity that would have been impossible before. Step 1. Recognizing the lessons. Hidden in deception, when someone presents false love, the initial reaction is heartbreak, confusion, or rage. Yet, if we observe carefully, each experience contains lessons. Discernment. Learning to perceive authenticity versus performance. Self-awareness. Understanding our emotional triggers and vulnerabilities. Empathy tempered with caution. Caring deeply without losing oneself. Pain is a teacher, and the classroom is often the very space where we thought we were safe. The challenge lies in receiving the lesson without bitterness, allowing insight to bloom in place of resentment. Story 1. Seeing the subtle signs. Maya had been in a relationship that seemed perfect on the surface. Compliments were abundant, gestures affectionate, but there was always a sense of imbalance. After the love ended as suddenly as it began, she realized she had ignored subtle cues, promises unfulfilled, evasive explanations, inconsistent attention. Through reflection, she learned the value of subtlety in perception. Deception had sharpened her awareness. It had given her a lens to see authenticity clearly. Step 2. Psychological insights. Understanding human behavior. From a psychological, Perspective encounters with false love expose patterns both in others and ourselves. Attachment styles. Those with anxious attachment may internalize blame, while avoidant patterns may attract inconsistent partners. Awareness allows adjustment rather than automatic suffering. Projection and insecurity. People who feign love often project their own fears, insecurities or needs onto others. Recognizing projection prevents misattribution of blame. Boundaries as learning tools. Each breach of trust teaches what to protect and how to maintain emotional sovereignty. Psychology provides the vocabulary to understand why the heart is vulnerable, why patterns repeat, and how to respond consciously instead of reactively. Metaphor. The tempered blade. Imagine the heart as a blade. Untested, it is soft, prone to bending or breaking. Encounters with false love temper it, not by harming the steel, but by refining its edge. Pain is the forge. Insight is the cooling, tempering, and sharpening process. The result is strength coupled with flexibility, clarity with compassion. Step 3. Spiritual insights. The refinement of the soul. Spiritual traditions often view suffering as a refining fire. False love challenges not only our emotional resilience, but also our spiritual discernment. Faith in timing. Life often brings lessons when the heart is ready. Deception arrives not as punishment, but as a wake-up call to clarity. Discernment of true connection. Spiritual awareness helps recognize relationships that nourish the soul versus those that drain it. Patience and acceptance. Pain teaches surrender, not in resignation, but in trusting that clarity and authenticity will manifest. From a spiritual lens, the heartbreak of false love is a form of awakening. The soul learns the difference between attachment and genuine connection, between desire and alignment. Story 2. The spiritual lens. Liam had been manipulated by a close friend who feigned loyalty while subtly undermining him. At first, anger consumed him. Over time, he reflected spiritually. Why had this person entered his life? What patterns were being highlighted? Through meditation and journaling, Liam recognized that the experience was teaching him patience, discernment, and the ability to honor his intuition. The pain was the message, and the message was clarity. Step 4. Integrating psychology and spirituality. True wisdom arises when the mind and heart converge. Understanding human behavior psychologically provides clarity. Seeing it spiritually provides perspective. Together, they guide action. Awareness of patterns. Observe tendencies in yourself and others that attract false affection. Compassion without compromise. Recognize human imperfection, but do not permit it to dictate your worth. Discernment as practice. Evaluate connections not only by charm or words, but by consistency, integrity, and alignment. Acceptance as empowerment. Let go of what cannot be changed, while preserving your dignity and emotional sovereignty. This integration transforms suffering from a wound into a guidepost. It shapes not only how you love, but also how you choose to be loved. Step 5. The gift of emotional sovereignty. Encounters with false love teach an invaluable lesson. Your emotional state is not dictated by others' deceit. You regain sovereignty over responses, choosing to react thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Expectations. aligning hope with reality rather than illusion. Boundaries, defining what is acceptable and rejecting what is harmful. Sovereignty is liberation. It allows your heart to engage authentically without fear of manipulation, reclaiming power previously ceded to those who feigned affection. Metaphor, the compass of the heart. The heart, after false love, becomes a compass. Once untested, it pointed to immediate desires. Now, refined through experience, it aligns with authenticity. It distinguishes between warmth that sustains and attention that deceives. Every choice is guided by this newfound clarity, preventing repetition of past errors. Story 2. The Friend Who Faded. Michael had a friend, Sarah, who seemed inseparable at first. They laughed, shared secrets, and promised each other loyalty that felt unshakable. But as months passed, Michael noticed a pattern. Sarah called only when it suited her. Her support was sporadic, and her interest in his life was superficial. When Michael finally confronted the reality, it stung. Their friendship had been a convenience for her, not a genuine bond of care. The warmth he remembered was real, but only in fragments, never sustained, never consistent. He grieved the friendship he thought. He had but learned that even the kindest words can hide self-interest. The psychology behind the facade, what makes these false affections so powerful, is how they engage our hearts and minds. Psychologically, humans are wired to respond to attention, care, and validation. When someone gives this selectively, unpredictably, or conditionally, it triggers a cocktail of hope, fear, and craving. The brain begins to seek consistency where there is none, and the heart invests in patterns that will never hold. It is not your failure. It is the mechanism of human attachment at play. The mask works because it exploits the natural desire for connection, trust, and intimacy. Story 3. The parent who loved selectively Sophia grew up in a home where her mother's love was measured, not unconditional. Affection arrived as reward for obedience, silence was punishment, and praise was rare. As a child, Sophia learned to navigate these emotional cues, always striving for approval, always craving validation. As an adult, she entered relationships carrying this blueprint. She gravitated toward partners who mirrored the same conditional love, subconsciously drawn to the patterns she had known. When betrayal or insincerity surfaced, she initially blamed herself until reflection revealed a deeper truth. Some love is not meant to nourish. It is meant to control, condition, or teach lessons in resilience. Metaphor, the Garden of Illusions. Imagine a garden where flowers bloom beautifully, but never root in the soil. You water them, care for them, and hope they will grow strong. Yet when the storm comes, the flowers wilt and scatter, leaving only memories of what could have been. False love is like these flowers. It appears real, beautiful, and alive, but it never truly takes root. The heartbreak is not that you failed to nurture it. It is that it was never yours to grow. Story 4. The colleague who played close. Daniel trusted Julia, a colleague who seemed genuinely supportive. She shared advice, celebrated his successes, and laughed at his jokes. For a time, he believed in their camaraderie as something special, a rare workplace friendship that transcended office politics. Then came the whispers behind his back. The subtle betrayals that revealed Julia's interest was strategic, not affectionate. She had been leveraging their connection for her advantage, networking, visibility, personal gain, while Daniel had invested emotionally in what he thought was genuine care. The revelation left Daniel stunned, but also wiser. He learned to differentiate attention from affection, strategy from sincerity, and charm from genuine empathy. Emotional resonance, recognition and validation. Hearing these stories, you might feel echoes of your own experiences. The time someone's warmth felt real until it wasn't. The friendships that demanded more than they offered. The love that thrived only when convenient. It is vital to recognize your emotions are valid. Your heartbreak is valid. The pain is real, and it is not a reflection of weakness or poor judgment. It is proof of your capacity to care, to invest, and to love. Story 5. The romantic mirage Amira met someone who swept her off her feet with words of devotion, poetic messages, and grand gestures. Their connection felt destined, and Amira allowed herself to believe in the love story she wanted. Months later, cracks emerged. Promises dissolved, priorities shifted, and intimacy became sporadic. She realized painfully that the affection had been performative, designed to maintain control rather than nurture a partnership. In her heartbreak, Amira learned a crucial lesson. The measure of love is not in words, grand or frequent, but in consistency, authenticity, and mutual regard. The mirage shattered, but clarity emerged in its place. The subtle patterns of false love. Across these stories, certain patterns emerge. Conditional warmth. Affection appears only when it suits the other person. Inconsistent attention. Presence fluctuates unpredictably, leaving emotional gaps. Manipulation of trust. Vulnerability is used as leverage rather than nurtured. Selective empathy. Care is extended selectively, based on convenience or gain. Recognizing these patterns is not easy. False love is skilled at masquerade, appealing to desires, hopes, and even self-esteem. But awareness is the first step toward protection, understanding, and eventual freedom. Story 6. The friend who withdrew Tariq had a childhood friend, Omar, whose affection seemed unwavering. They shared secrets, supported each other, and promised lifelong connection. But as life progressed, Omar's involvement became selective. Calls and visits only when convenient, empathy only when it didn't require effort. Tariq initially blamed himself, wondering why he wasn't enough. With time, he realized that Omar's affection was performative, not rooted in genuine care. Tariq's recognition didn't erase the pain, but gave him clarity. Not all love is meant to be reciprocal, and not all closeness is authentic. Metaphor. The reflection in Waterfall's love is like a reflection in rippling water. It appears vivid and real, but reach out to grasp it, and it disappears, leaving only your hand in emptiness. The pain is tangible, but the lesson is clear. Appearances are not always reality, and discernment is essential for emotional survival. Emotional validation in every story. The human response is mirrored. Disappointment, grief, anger, and eventual understanding. It is normal to feel betrayed by the illusion of affection. Question your judgment, only to realize the deception was skilled. Mourn the moments you invested in something that was never fully yours. Feel relief when clarity arrives, even amid residual pain. This validation is crucial. It acknowledges that your experience is real, significant, and meaningful. Story 7. The family member who withheld love Clara had long sought approval from a parent whose affection was reserved for success, obedience, or alignment with their expectations. Birthdays, milestones, and achievements were celebrated selectively. Emotional support was inconsistent at best. Clara's early adulthood was shaped by this conditional love. She carried insecurities, sought external validation, and struggled to trust the authenticity of others' affections. Recognition of this dynamic, seeing that the love was always partial, that care was often performative, was painful but liberating. She learned to separate her value from the conditional approval she had long chased. Story 8. The mentor who manipulated trust Ethan admired a mentor who seemed invested in his growth, providing guidance, encouragement, and attention. But over time, Ethan realized that the mentorship served the mentor's reputation more than his development. The emotional support had been selective, the praise strategic, the attention conditional. This revelation hurt, yet it taught a critical lesson. Genuine care is consistent, nurturing, and selfless. Recognizing the absence of these qualities protects the heart from future exploitation. Synthesis. Lessons from the stories, from lovers, friends, family, and mentors. The mirror becomes clear. False love thrives on appearances, on selective engagement, on the exploitation of hope. Yet by observing these patterns, you gain discernment, the ability to distinguish between authentic and performative affection. Self-awareness, understanding your own boundaries, needs, and vulnerabilities. Empowerment, reclaiming your heart and attention from those who do not honor it. The human experience is full of such mirrors. They hurt, yes, but they also teach. Metaphor. Clearing the fog. Imagine walking through a foggy landscape, unsure of which path is real, which figures are shadows, and which voices belong to true companions. False love is the fog. It obscures, misleads, and deceives. Recognition, reflection, and awareness are the sunlight, slowly lifting the mist and revealing the path forward. Through the stories we have explored, the fog begins to lift. Pain remains, but clarity grows. The path toward healthy connection, authenticity, and self-preservation emerges. Closing reflection. As you listen to these stories, take a moment to see yourself in the reflections. Perhaps you have felt the warmth of attention that vanished, the support that was selective, the affection that demanded more than it offered. It is not a mark of weakness. It is evidence that your heart is capable, that your capacity to love deeply is intact, and that your discernment is evolving. Within these stories lie lessons, guidance on spotting truth, reclaiming your heart, and nurturing connections that are real. And within these stories lie the patterns and wisdom that prepare you for the next step. Understanding how to see deception clearly, reclaim your emotional power, and navigate the world of affection without losing yourself. In the next section, we will explore the subtle truths and practical insights that transform these lessons into clarity, boundaries, and emotional resilience. There comes a moment when the fog lifts, when the warmth you once thought was love feels like a distant memory, and the heart begins to recognize patterns that were invisible before. That moment is the turning point. It arrives quietly, often after long nights of questioning, after endless replaying of conversations, after your own reflection in the mirror whispers, "Something is not as it seemed." This is not just insight, it is awakening. The moment of clarity. Lena remembered the exact instant she understood the truth. She had spent years in a relationship where promises and grand gestures masked inconsistency, where loving words were paired with absence, and attention came only when convenient. One rainy evening she sat alone, recalling the patterns with painstaking detail. She realized that the affection she had clung to was not grounded in authenticity. Each act of attention was selective, each compliment conditional. Her heart had been responding to signals that were carefully crafted, not genuine. This recognition was not comfortable. It carried pain, yes, but also empowerment. Suddenly, Lena saw clearly. The love that had left her unfulfilled was not a reflection of her inadequacy. It was a reflection of the other's choices, limitations, and insecurities. Psychology behind the awakening. The human brain is wired to seek patterns. We look for consistency, for cause and effect, for connection. When affection is irregular, our minds try to fill the gaps. We overanalyze texts, replay conversations, and blame ourselves for what is not ours to control. Awakening occurs when the mind steps back and sees the pattern for what it is. Selective, performative, conditional. Understanding this is both liberating and stabilizing. It shifts responsibility from you, whose heart was open, whose care was genuine, to them whose motives were hidden, who often could not love authentically. Story 1. The romantic illusion. Aaron had believed in a partner who was charming, attentive, and seemingly devoted. But after months he noticed recurring absences and unexplained behaviors. Friends offered advice, but he resisted. He wanted to see it for himself. Then came the evening he realized the truth. The attention he had received was inconsistent, because it was convenient for her, not because of genuine affection. Recognition hit like a sudden gust of wind, shaking him, leaving him raw. But it also illuminated a crucial lesson. Love cannot be forced, and worth cannot be dictated by someone else's selective attention. Emotional liberation. This awakening is more than understanding others. It is reclaiming your agency. For so long, your heart may have been held hostage by appearances, by manipulation, by the desire for approval. Seeing through the facade allows you to step back. You begin to ask yourself, what do I need? Who truly values me consistently, not conditionally? Am I seeking validation from those who cannot give it authentically? As these questions settle in, empowerment grows. The heartbreak remains, but it becomes instructive rather than destructive. Story 2. The friend who took without giving. Maya had a friend whose affection was unpredictable. Sometimes the warmth was abundant. Other times, silence stretched for weeks. Initially, Maya blamed herself. Maybe she had been too demanding, too sensitive. The turning point came when she observed the broader pattern. Her friend extended care only when it was convenient, never reciprocating emotional investment. Maya felt the sting of realization, but alongside it came clarity. She could stop chasing someone incapable of authentic presence and redirect her energy toward those who would honor her fully. Metaphor. Removing the mask imagine. A masquerade ball where everyone wears a mask. For hours you interact, dance, and converse with faces that seem familiar, comforting and warm. Then the masks are removed one by one, revealing the reality beneath. Some smiles were sincere, others calculated. Some gestures of affection were genuine, others performative. The turning point is when you, too, remove your mask, the one that hides doubt, fear, and vulnerability, and see clearly who was authentic and who was not. This is not betrayal, it is truth. Understanding motives people do not always act out of malice. Sometimes they operate from fear, insecurity, or ego. Recognizing motives behind false love does not excuse hurt, it contextualizes it. Fear of intimacy. Some avoid authentic closeness, masking care to protect themselves. Control and power. Conditional affection can manipulate behavior or maintain advantage. Insecurity. They may seek admiration or validation without reciprocity. Habitual patterns. Many repeat behaviors learned in childhood, unaware of the pain they cause others. Seeing these motives reframes your perception. The problem was never your heart. It was the nature of their behavior. Story 3. The family bond that felt. Conditional Rena had grown up in a household where affection was linked to achievement. Praise was given sparingly. Love came with strings, and mistakes were magnified. As an adult, she carried this blueprint into friendships and romantic relationships. Her awakening came when she identified the patterns. She understood that some people could not offer unconditional care, not because she lacked worth, but because they had never learned it. Recognizing this freed her from the endless cycle of seeking validation from the incapable. Reclaiming your agency. Once the facade is visible, you gain freedom. You can choose to disengage from manipulative patterns, to invest only in relationships that are reciprocal and authentic, to prioritize your emotional and mental well-being above external approval. This is not detachment from love. It is discerning love, valuing your heart while navigating a world where not all affection is genuine. Story 4. The mentor who manipulated Khalid revered his mentor, believing in guidance that nurtured his growth. Yet he began to notice inconsistencies. Advice served more the mentor's interests than his own. Attention was selective and praise was strategically timed. Through reflection, Khalid recognized that the affection he had admired was performative, a tool rather than a gift. This recognition stung, but it also allowed him to reclaim his confidence, to seek guidance from those whose care was authentic, and to honor his own worth in the process. The psychology of realization. The turning point activates both rational understanding and emotional insight. Your mind identifies patterns that were previously hidden. Your emotions recalibrate, detaching desire from manipulation. Self-respect strengthens, providing boundaries that protect your heart. It is a psychological pivot from passivity to agency, from reacting to patterns to interpreting them, learning from them, and acting with discernment. Metaphor: clearing the fog-false affection clouds. Perception like dense fog over a path. You stumble, unsure which directions are safe, which signals are genuine, which moments carry meaning. Awakening is the sunlight piercing the mist. Slowly, details sharpen, shapes become recognizable, paths become navigable, and danger is visible. With clarity comes confidence. You no longer chase illusions. You choose connection consciously, deliberately, wisely. Story 5. Romantic patterns. Reversed Nadia had been in a relationship where affection appeared intense, but was inconsistent. Each reconciliation after distance felt like hope renewed, yet the inconsistencies persisted. Her turning point arrived when she mapped the pattern clearly. The highs and lows were not natural relationship ebbs, but strategic inconsistencies. Recognizing the facade gave Nadia control. She no longer reacted impulsively. She no longer sought approval from someone unwilling to offer authenticity. Her heart regained sovereignty. The power of awareness this stage, seeing through the facade, is transformative. Pain remains, but it becomes a teacher rather than a prison. You recognize selective attention as what it is. Understand that manipulation is about them, not your inadequacy. Learn that authentic connection requires transparency, reciprocity, and respect. Awareness itself is liberating. You no longer need to beg, chase, or rationalize behavior that is inconsistent or conditional. You reclaim your energy, your choices, and your peace. Story 6. The Friend Who Taught Boundaries. Samara had a friend whose kindness seemed limitless, until it vanished when it conflicted with personal convenience. Samara felt hurt, confused, and doubted her judgment. Through reflection, she realized the pattern: selective warmth, performative gestures, attention only when convenient. Awareness allowed her to redefine boundaries. She could love, care, and connect without being vulnerable to inconsistency. Her turning point was not just recognition, it was application. Awareness became action. Action became self-respect. And self-respect became peace. Emotional reflection. The awakening carries 3 intertwined realizations. Clarity of motives. Understanding why people behave as they do without taking it personally. Reclamation of power. Choosing not to allow others' inconsistency to dictate your emotional state. Preparation for authentic connection. Learning to engage with those who are capable of reciprocal, consistent, and honest affection. This is the bridge from pain to empowerment, from manipulation to mastery of your heart. Story 1. Mara and the Veil Mara had given herself fully to a partner who seemed attentive, kind, and present. She celebrated milestones, shared dreams, and believed wholeheartedly in the future they sketched together. The first signs were subtle: excuses for missed calls, hesitation in intimate moments, a certain distance that she tried to rationalize. Then came the revelations, small lies, inconsistencies, a pattern that could no longer be denied. Mara's disbelief quickly turned to sorrow, then to anger. She felt used, deceived, and painfully naive. Yet through this recognition, the first layer of clarity emerged, understanding that the mask was never hers to remove. It was theirs to wear. Emotional rawness, anger, sadness, and shock. The breaking point is often a mix of conflicting emotions. You may feel anger at their manipulation, at your own perceived gullibility, at the time and energy invested. Sadness for the loss of imagined intimacy, for the love you thought was real, for the moments that can never be reclaimed. Shock, the sudden clarity that someone you trusted was not what they seemed. These emotions collide violently, leaving a turbulent inner landscape. It is raw, it is intimate, and it is transformative. Story 2. Lucas's shattered illusion. Lucas had loved with an open heart. He trusted fully, giving his time, his attention, and his vulnerability. Slowly, he began to notice contradictions. Their words of love not matching their actions, the care only appearing on their terms. When the final truth revealed itself, a betrayal hidden beneath the guise of affection, Lucas felt shattered. The pain was not only about loss, but about realization that he had invested in an illusion. For days, he replayed every smile, every promise, trying to reconcile love with deception. The spiral. Questioning yourself. After the mask is revealed, internal chaos often follows. You may question, how could I have been so blind? What does this say about my judgment? Will I ever trust again? This self-questioning is natural but dangerous if unchecked. The mind ruminates on what could have been done differently, on the signs you missed, on the imagined potential of someone who never truly existed. Metaphor: the mirror. Cracked imagine holding a mirror that reflects your hopes, your trust, and your dreams of love. Slowly, you notice cracks forming. At first, they are faint, almost unnoticeable. Over time, they spiderweb across the surface, distorting the reflection. The breaking point is when the mirror shatters entirely. You stare at the pieces, each one reflecting fragments of reality, illusions, and betrayal. It hurts, it confuses, but it also allows you to see truth. The reflection was never perfect, because the image placed in front of you was a fabrication, the weight of realization. Recognizing the mask brings a heaviness that is both physical and emotional. Your chest tightens, your stomach knots, your mind races with questions. It is normal to feel exhaustion from the mental energy spent believing in what wasn't real, emptiness, the loss of the imagined future, the life you thought you were building. Isolation, feeling alone with your awareness, as though no one else has been deceived in quite this way. This weight can feel unbearable, but it is also the crucible of transformation. In confronting the truth, you are beginning the process of reclaiming yourself. Story 3. Alina and the emotional avalanche. Alina had been in love with someone who constantly alternated between affection and withdrawal. She believed in the love because she wanted it to be real, interpreting absence as temporary, neglect as a test, silence as something fixable. The breaking point came suddenly. A confession of infidelity, paired with excuses that revealed deeper patterns of manipulation. The avalanche of grief, anger, and shame hit her like a storm. Yet in the aftermath, Alina experienced a flicker of clarity, understanding that their behavior was a reflection of their own flaws, not a measure of her worth. Psychological fallout, trauma, and self-doubt. The internal consequences of recognizing deception are profound. Erosion of trust. You may find it difficult to believe in love again. Self-blame. Despite evidence, the mind seeks fault within itself. Emotional dysregulation. Mood swings, irritability, and anxiety may intensify. Hypervigilance, a constant awareness of potential deceit in future relationships. It is critical to remember, these reactions are natural and protective. They are your mind and heart recalibrating after exposure to falsehood. Story 4. Jamal and rebuilding. After disillusionment, Jamal had invested years in a relationship that seemed perfect on the surface. Behind closed doors, however, his partner's affection was inconsistent and conditional. The breaking point came when the facade collapsed under scrutiny, revealing repeated betrayals and hidden agendas. Initially, Jamal was consumed by self-doubt. Yet slowly, he began to reclaim agency. By observing patterns and acknowledging the mask for what it was, he distinguished between their deceit and his own value. This recognition became the first step toward emotional resilience, the role of awareness. The breaking point is paradoxical. It is painful, destabilizing and raw, yet it is also enlightening. Awareness of the mask does several things. Separates truth from illusion. You begin to distinguish between genuine love and performance. Protects your self-worth. Recognition prevents further erosion of your identity. Guides future choices. By understanding their behavior, you can navigate future relationships with greater clarity and boundaries. Awareness is not immediate relief. It is a seed planted amidst anguish that will grow into wisdom, discernment, and ultimately freedom. Metaphor: a phoenix rising. Imagine the heart as a phoenix. The breaking point is the fire that consumes the false image of love. The flames are painful, scorching, and all-consuming. But in the ashes lies the possibility of rebirth. A heart stronger, wiser, and capable of discerning authenticity. This is the paradox of false love. It burns you down, yet it also clears the space for a more resilient, self-aware version of yourself. Emotional validation. At the breaking point, it is essential to honor your emotions. You are allowed to cry for the love you thought you had. Feel anger at the deceit and manipulation. Lament the lost trust and time invested. Experience grief for the part of yourself that hoped, believed, and risked. These feelings are not weaknesses. They are proof that you care deeply, that your heart is capable of connection, and that your capacity for love is still intact, the edge of transformation. Recognizing the mask is the threshold of change. The hue, pain is raw, yes, but it is also the first step toward clarity and self-preservation. When you confront the illusion, you begin to strengthen emotional boundaries, discern authenticity in others more clearly, protect yourself from repeated patterns of deceit, reclaim your narrative from someone who never valued it. This is the moment where suffering intersects with insight, the point where heartbreak can become education for the soul. Story 5. Naomi's turning point. Naomi had long ignored small inconsistencies in her partner's behavior, convincing herself that love would bridge the gaps. The breaking point arrived unexpectedly, a revelation of intentional deception and manipulation. The initial wave was devastation. She questioned herself, felt betrayed, and sank into grief. Yet in the quiet aftermath, Naomi realized that the experience had illuminated her values, boundaries, and self-worth. She began to see that the mask was never hers to remove, and that her liberation began with recognition, reflection, from pain to clarity. The breaking point is not the end. It is the moment where clarity emerges from chaos. The mask is exposed, deception is recognized, and the heart can begin to heal. It is painful, it is unsettling. But within the intensity lies the first step towards self-preservation, emotional autonomy, and wisdom. By acknowledging the false love for what it is, you reclaim your story and your power. Yet within this painful awakening lies the first spark of understanding. The recognition that you deserve authenticity. The knowledge that deception is theirs, not yours, and the awareness that the breaking point is not a defeat, but a beginning. In the next section, we will explore how these revelations transform into actionable steps toward healing, boundaries, and the reclamation of self, turning heartbreak into empowerment. False love is not always dramatic. Sometimes it whispers softly, lulling you into belief with warmth and charm, before revealing itself as hollow. To understand its impact, it helps to see it reflected in the stories of others, mirrors of reality that echo the subtle betrayals, the misplaced trust, and the quiet heartbreaks that leave us questioning everything. Story 1. The Lover Who Disappeared. Ella had always been the one to give first. Her affection was generous, her attention constant, and her heart open without reservation. When she met Thomas, it felt like a rare alignment of stars. His compliments were precise, his gestures thoughtful, and the way he looked at her seemed to promise an unspoken eternity. Yet over time, small cracks appeared. Late replies became standard, promises dissolved into excuses, and moments of intimacy were punctuated by sudden distance. Ella tried to rationalize. He's busy. He's stressed. I understand. The breaking point came unexpectedly. An absence she could no longer excuse. A phone call that never came. A conversation that never happened. The love she believed was genuine was, in truth, selective, conditional, and performative. Thomas's affection had been a mask, one that fell away, leaving Ella to grapple with grief, disbelief, and self-reflection. Story 2. The Compass of Choice. Derek had been deceived by a friend who feigned loyalty while undermining him in subtle ways. Initially, Derek felt crushed, questioning his judgment and doubting his worth. Through reflective practice, he began to recognize the patterns in both the friendship and his own response. He made deliberate choices to forgive but not to forget, to set boundaries but not to close his heart entirely, to honor himself, even if the other never recognized his value. This conscious reclamation of emotional agency transformed Derek's experience. He moved from reaction to reflection, from confusion to clarity, and from dependency on external validation to self-sufficient strength. Step 4. Integrating wisdom and reflection. The insights gained from past deception and heartbreak become tools for life. They are not scars meant to be hidden. They are guideposts. Reflection allows you to integrate emotional awareness, understanding your feelings as messages, not burdens. Behavioral insight, recognizing patterns that no longer serve you. Spiritual alignment, trusting the unfolding of life, understanding that experiences, even painful ones, can guide you toward growth. When integrated, wisdom and reflection create a harmonious balance. The mind understands, the heart feels, the soul aligns with its purpose. Metaphor: the phoenix within. The heart after pain is like a phoenix. It may feel scorched, fragile, or hollow, yet within its embers lies the capacity to rise anew. Reflection fans these embers into flame, empowering the heart to ascend with strength, clarity, and purpose. What was once diminished is renewed. What was once scattered is collected. Step 5. Practicing empowered presence. Reclaiming the heart is not only internal, it shapes how you engage with the world. Empowered presence means choosing connections consciously, engaging with people who respect your boundaries and honor your truth. Communicating authentically, expressing your needs and feelings without fear of rejection or manipulation. Living aligned with values, ensuring your choices reflect the lessons learned rather than old patterns of seeking validation. Through presence, you inhabit your life fully, not as a reaction to past pain, but as a conscious, aware participant in love and connection. Story 3. Embodied empowerment Sophia had a history of entering relationships where she constantly gave, hoping to earn affection. After encountering false love multiple times, she felt depleted and mistrustful. Through reflection and practice, she began to prioritize self-care, set boundaries, and observe her own emotional triggers. Over time, her relationships shifted. She no longer sought proof of worthiness from others. She approached connection with clarity and confidence. Her heart, once tentative, now radiated empowered openness. Step 6. Joy as a byproduct of reclamation. Reclaiming your heart is not just about avoiding harm. It is about cultivating joy. When the heart is sovereign, aware and reflective, joy naturally emerges. Presence replaces longing. Instead of craving attention, you savor connection and the beauty of being alive. Self-love strengthens empathy. Genuine love for others flows naturally from the heart that loves itself. Peace replaces anxiety. Knowing that your worth is inherent, not contingent, diminishes fear and fosters calm. Joy is not dependent on circumstance. It is an internal state cultivated through reflection, empowerment, and conscious choice. Step 7. Daily practices to reclaim your heart to make reflection and empowerment tangible. Daily practices can anchor your growth. Journaling reflections. Note lessons, emotions, and insights gained from experiences of false love. Mindful meditation. Sit with your heart, observe thoughts without judgment, and reaffirm your sovereignty. Affirmations of self-worth. Remind yourself, I am whole, I am enough, I am capable of authentic connection. Selective engagement. Choose relationships that honor your boundaries and reflect mutual respect. These practices weave reflection into everyday life, making empowerment habitual rather than fleeting. Metaphor: the lighthouse revisited. Imagine your heart as a lighthouse, once dimmed by storms of deception. Reflection and empowerment rekindle its light. The tower stands tall, casting illumination over turbulent waters, guiding both yourself and others towards safe passage. Each lesson learned, each boundary honored, strengthens the beacon. Your heart is no longer at the mercy of external forces, but shines with conscious intention. Step 8. Preparing for authentic love. With reflection and empowerment, the heart becomes ready for genuine connection. Readiness is not about seeking or craving. It is about being available without compromise, loving without fear, and discerning without suspicion. Authentic connection thrives on transparency. Honesty is now expected, not feared. Mutual respect replaces dependency. Relationships honor individuality and integrity. Confidence in self nurtures trust. Secure in your worth, you approach intimacy openly, yet wisely. The lessons of false love, once bitter, now cultivate a heart prepared to engage deeply, consciously, and meaningfully. Story 4. The heart fully reclaimed. Jared had experienced relationships that left him doubting himself, questioning intentions, and fearing vulnerability. Through reflection, meditation, and the study of human psychology and spiritual wisdom, he began to recognize his intrinsic value. When he finally entered a new relationship, it was not with desperation but with discernment. He communicated clearly, honored his boundaries, and approached love with courage and clarity. The heart that had once been bruised now radiated authenticity and joy. The past was acknowledged but no longer controlling. Closing reflection. Reflection and empowerment are not destinations. They are ongoing companions. Each moment you choose awareness over reaction, patience over impulse, and sovereignty over compromise. You reclaim pieces of your heart. The past of false affection, deception, or unmet expectations no longer defines you. It shapes you, strengthens you, and prepares you to embrace life, love, and connection on your own terms. The heart, once lost in the shadows of another's deceit, now walks into the light of its own wisdom. Each breath, each choice, each act of self-respect is a step toward fullness, freedom, and authenticity. Before we end, I want to leave you with a lasting emotional anchor. A final space of reflection that carries the heart forward into healing, clarity, and empowered love. In the next section, we will close with a blessing that affirms your worth, your sovereignty, and the enduring strength of a heart that has been reclaimed. Take a deep breath and feel the rhythm of your heart. Notice that it still beats steadily, that it still carries warmth, hope, and the capacity for connection. You have walked through storms of false affection, through the shadows of deception and disappointment, and yet, here you are, whole, present, and ready. This moment is yours. Let it sink in. You are not defined by those who pretended to care, who feigned affection, or who sought control rather than connection. You are defined by your courage to feel, to love, to endure, and to rise again. Every tear you've shed, every night spent in quiet reflection, every question whispered into the emptiness, these are not marks of weakness, but of strength. They are proof that your heart is alive, perceptive, and resilient. I want you to hear this clearly. You are worthy of love that is real. Not love that comes with strings, not love that demands compromise of your truth, but love that honors your spirit, celebrates your presence, and holds you with genuine care. The love you have been denied was never meant to diminish you. It was a reflection of the other's limitations, not your shortcomings. Your heart has not failed. Your capacity to love has not dimmed. In fact, it has grown stronger, more discerning, more luminous. Imagine your heart as a vessel. For a time it carried waters that were murky, waters that clouded your perception and left you questioning your worth. But now, through reflection, empowerment, and reclamation, that vessel has been cleansed. It holds clarity, it holds peace, it holds the kind of love that is patient, kind, and unwavering. Take a moment to picture this. Each beat of your heart sends ripples of strength and authenticity through your being. Each thought rooted in self-respect reinforces your boundaries and nurtures your soul. Each breath reminds you that the world can no longer define your value. It has always resided within you. Bless yourself in this moment. Bless the courage that brought you through the darkness. Bless the tears that washed away illusions. Bless the quiet moments of reflection that taught you patience, discernment, and the art of being fully present with yourself. Your journey was never in vain. Every encounter, every heartbreak, every lesson has brought you closer to the heart you were always meant to cultivate. One that is aware, open, and capable of deep, authentic connection. I want to remind you, you do not need anyone else's approval to know your worth. You do not need someone to mirror your value for it to exist. You are intrinsically whole. You are intrinsically capable of giving and receiving love that nourishes your soul. And because of the wisdom and growth you've cultivated, you are now ready to recognize it when it comes, and to refuse anything less. Metaphor. The phoenix rising. Imagine a bird that falls into ashes. The heat of betrayal, the smoke of disappointment, and the wreckage of false love seem devastating. But within those ashes lies potential. The phoenix rises, not because the fire was just, but because it was transformative. Seeing through the facade is the fire. It burns away illusions, clears away dependency on inauthentic affection, and leaves the heart ready to rise stronger, wiser, and fully alive. Closing reflection. The turning point is rarely immediate. It comes through reflection, observation, and the courage to face truth. Pain lingers, but clarity reshapes it into learning. As you recognize patterns of deception, understand motives, and reclaim agency, your heart regains strength. You no longer fear inconsistency, you anticipate authenticity. You no longer crave validation. You honor your own worth. And once this clarity is achieved, once the masks are seen and the patterns understood, the path to genuine connection begins. Not just with others, but with yourself. Trusting, loving, and valuing your heart without compromise. In the next section, we will explore how to translate this awakening into practical healing boundaries and emotional empowerment. Healing begins not with grand gestures, but with quiet recognition that your heart deserves authenticity, that your trust can be rebuilt, and that your worth is inherent, independent of those who once deceived it. After seeing through the facade, after recognizing patterns of fake affection, the natural next step is reclamation. Not revenge, not bitterness, but restoration. Healing is the deliberate act of saying to yourself, I will care for my heart, and I will honor its needs. Step 1. Reclaiming self-trust. Pretend love fractures trust, first in others, then in yourself. You begin to question your judgment. Did I read the signals wrong? Did I miss the red flags? Healing requires you to pause and observe. Your instincts are valid. Your heart was responding authentically. It was the signals you trusted that were misaligned. Begin by acknowledging your feelings without judgment. Sadness, anger, disappointment, and even shame. All are valid responses to being misled. Consider this. Trust is like a muscle. It can be strained, weakened, even broken, but it can also be strengthened. Start small. Make choices that honor your intuition. Notice when your gut feels discomfort or joy, and trust those signals. Rebuilding self-trust is a daily, intentional practice. Story 1. Learning to listen to the inner voice. Ella had been deceived in a close friendship. At first, she blamed herself, wondering if she had imagined the manipulation. Slowly, she began to journal, to reflect on moments that had felt off in hindsight. Through this practice, she discovered her inner voice had been warning her all along. She had simply ignored it. Reclaiming self-trust wasn't about erasing the past. It was about learning to listen to herself moving forward. Step 2. Establishing boundaries. Pretend love often violates boundaries subtly. Unkept promises, inconsistent attention, emotional games. Healing means defining what is acceptable, what is not, and communicating it clearly. Boundaries are not walls. They are bridges. They protect your energy while allowing authentic connection to flow. Examples: limiting contact with those who manipulate or deceive. Saying no when demands feel exploitative or one-sided. Honoring your need for emotional space without guilt. Boundaries are acts of self-respect. They teach others how to treat you while reminding your heart that it is worthy of care and consistency. Metaphor: the garden of the heart. Imagine your heart as a garden. Pretend love is like weeds, intrusive, straining for sunlight, draining nutrients. Healing begins by identifying the weeds, understanding their nature, and removing them carefully. Plant seeds of intention instead: self-care, honest communication, and nurturing relationships that honor your boundaries. Over time, the garden flourishes, not because the weeds never existed, but because your care is deliberate, consistent, and rooted in self-respect. Step 3. Rebuilding emotional literacy. Pretend love often leaves confusion and emotional fragmentation. You may struggle to differentiate genuine care from manipulation, affection from performance. Healing requires rebuilding emotional literacy, naming feelings as they arise: jealousy, longing, disappointment, or relief. Recognizing patterns in others' behavior without internalizing blame. Practicing empathy without sacrificing self-protection. By rebuilding emotional literacy, you regain clarity. You understand your needs and the signals of authenticity. You learn to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Story 2. Emotional boundaries in practice. Jamal had a history of romantic partners whose attention was intermittent. After awakening to the patterns, he began setting boundaries. He limited late-night texts that demanded immediate responses, refused to excuse inconsistency, and chose partners who aligned with his values. At first, these boundaries felt uncomfortable, like rejecting connection. Yet over time, Jamal noticed something profound. The relationships he maintained became calmer, more reciprocal, and deeply fulfilling. Healing was not denial. It was discernment. Step 4. Choosing relationships. Consciously healing includes the conscious selection of who you allow into your emotional life. After experiencing pretend love, it is tempting to either isolate or overinvest in anyone who shows attention. Both extremes are harmful. Instead, cultivate relationships intentionally. Seek reciprocity, not mere presence. Observe consistency over charm. Value transparency over grand gestures. Authenticity becomes your compass. Not every connection will meet your criteria, and that is okay. Healing means letting go of those who cannot honor your heart, making space for those who can. Metaphor: the lighthouse. Your heart is a lighthouse, sending signals of care and boundaries. Pretend love may attempt to sway or blind the light, but with healing, the lighthouse stands firm. It warns of rocky shores, guides authentic connection, and remains steadfast even in storms. The turning point is not in resisting love, it is in guiding it wisely. Step 5. Forgiveness and release. Healing does not require forgetting. Pretend love may leave scars, and those scars are valid markers of experience. Yet, forgiveness, first for yourself, then for those who misled you, releases the hold of resentment. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It is liberation. It is saying, I will not carry this pain as a burden forever. I honor my growth, and I choose freedom over resentment. Consider this practice. Write a letter to yourself and to the person who deceived you, not to send, but to articulate the pain and release it. Acknowledge hurt, claim power, and step forward. Story 3. From resentment to peace. Sophia had been manipulated in a family dynamic with constant emotional games. Initially, she carried anger and confusion. Through reflection and journaling, she forgave, not for them, but for herself. The release transformed her. She slept easier, trusted herself again, and began forming connections that felt honest. Healing was not about erasing memory. It was about reclaiming emotional sovereignty. Step 6. Cultivating self-compassion. Pretend love often erodes self-worth. Healing requires nurturing the inner voice with compassion. Celebrate your resilience. Recognize that being deceived does not diminish your value. Allow yourself patience as you rebuild trust in love and life. Self-compassion anchors your heart. It reminds you that mistakes in perception are human, and that your capacity to love is not limited by others' inability to be authentic. Step 7. Creating rituals of healing. Healing is amplified by intentional rituals that reinforce self-care and clarity, morning reflection, journaling intentions, and affirming boundaries. Mindful pauses, recognizing triggers, and responding consciously rather than emotionally. Celebrating milestones, small victories, like asserting needs or ending toxic cycles, matter profoundly. Rituals transform learning into lived practice, making recovery tangible, sustained, and empowering. Metaphor. The phoenix and the heart, after being exposed to pretend love, resembles a phoenix ash-covered yet potent with potential. Healing is the deliberate act of rising. Each boundary, each act of self-respect, each reflection is a wing, lifting the heart toward freedom, warmth, and authentic connection. Pain becomes the fuel, not the fire that consumes you. Healing becomes action, not passive waiting. Integrating lessons learned. Healing transforms experience into wisdom. Recognize patterns early. Trust your instincts. Set clear boundaries. Rebuild emotional literacy. Choose relationships consciously. Forgive and release. Nurture self-compassion. Establish rituals that anchor growth. These steps do more than repair the heart. They fortify it. You become resilient, discerning, and capable of deep, genuine love without compromise. Step 6. Seeing love. Through the lens of wisdom, with psychological understanding and spiritual reflection, love is no longer naive. You recognize love is not proven by intensity alone, but by consistency. Genuine affection does not manipulate or confuse, it nurtures. Connection is deepened through honesty, not performance. This awareness does not close the heart. It opens it to the right expressions of intimacy. Wisdom ensures that future relationships are nourished, reciprocal, and rooted in authenticity. Story 3. Walking with Awareness. Amara had a history of partners who feigned devotion while pursuing personal gain. After reflection and study, she began noticing early signs of manipulation. Avoidance of accountability, inconsistent gestures, subtle gaslighting. Rather than retreating from love entirely, she approached connections with curiosity, clarity, and boundaries. The difference was profound. Her relationships became mutually respectful, honest, and enriching. Wisdom transformed her pain into insight that safeguarded her heart while allowing connection to flourish. Step 7. Reframing the pain. Rather than seeing false love as purely destructive, it can be reframed as a teacher of self-awareness. a catalyst for emotional growth, a call to refine intuition and boundaries, an opportunity to discern true intimacy and alignment. Reframing transforms despair into empowerment. Each scar becomes a map, guiding the heart toward depth, resilience, and authenticity. Step 8. Daily practices for wisdom to integrate lessons. Consider daily practices. Reflection journaling. Capture emotions, triggers, and insights to understand patterns and growth. Mindful observation. Note behaviors in yourself and others without immediate judgment. Meditation or prayer. Seek clarity, patience, and discernment. Mentorship or guidance. Learn from those who have cultivated relational wisdom. Consistency in these practices embeds psychological understanding and spiritual insight into daily life, making it accessible in real time rather than abstract theory. Metaphor. The lighthouse revisited painful experiences with fake love are like storms at sea. Your heart is the lighthouse. Initially shaken by waves of betrayal, it learns to stand firm, casting light that guides future connections safely to shore. Each lesson strengthens the foundation, and with patience and vigilance, the light never falters again. Step 9. Trusting the heart. Again, wisdom from pain does not close you off. It teaches discernment while preserving openness. Trust is no longer blind. It is deliberate, informed, and resilient. You approach new relationships aware of your patterns. You honor your boundaries without fear of loneliness. You cherish authenticity, even when it requires patience and selective engagement. This approach ensures that the heart remains tender but guarded, capable of deep, meaningful intimacy without repeating past harm. Story 4. The integration of mind and spirit. Noah had experienced several manipulative friendships and romances. Initially, he carried anger and suspicion. Over time, he studied human behavior, reflected spiritually, and established clear standards for connection. The result? An emotional life rich in clarity, joy, and reciprocity. Wisdom had transformed past deception into a framework for conscious living and intentional relationships. Pain was no longer a shackle, but a guide. Closing reflection wisdom emerges when pain is reflected upon, not ignored. False love, while initially devastating, offers insights impossible to gain without suffering. Through psychological understanding and spiritual reflection, the heart recognizes authenticity, maintains sovereignty, engages relationships with discernment and openness, integrates lessons into daily life, guiding future choices. Pain becomes a teacher, boundaries become guardians, and discernment becomes the compass. What was once heartbreak now functions as a roadmap toward intentional love, authentic intimacy, and deeper self-awareness. And with wisdom comes reflection, the gentle light after deception. This reflection is where peace begins, where the heart slows, where insight deepens. In the next section, we will enter this space of quiet clarity, exploring how to reclaim joy, trust, and fulfillment after experiences of pretend love. There is a quiet space that opens after pain, a soft clearing where the heart can breathe. It is here, in this tender stillness, that we begin to reclaim ourselves. After the storms of false love, of betrayal, of misunderstanding, there is an invitation to reflect, to sit with the self, to remember that your heart was never truly lost. Healing is not linear. Some days feel lighter, and some days the shadows return. But within the cycles, within the oscillation between hope and sorrow, lies the seed of empowerment. You are not the sum of those who deceived you. You are the reflection of resilience, of growth, of a spirit that refuses to harden into bitterness. Step 1. The gentle mirror of reflection. Reflection is a kind of gentle mirror. You look at your experiences, not to relive the hurt, not to assign blame, but to see patterns, recognize lessons, and honor your own endurance. Witness your emotions. Sadness, anger, disappointment. They are valid, and they tell a story. Acknowledge your needs. The heart that was ignored or manipulated had a voice. Now it can speak freely. Celebrate survival. Every moment you endured, every tear shed, every night spent in quiet contemplation. These are marks of strength. Reflection does not erase pain. It reframes it. It transforms heartbreak into awareness, loss into understanding, and confusion into clarity. Story 1. Rediscovering self. Clara had spent years seeking validation in relationships that were never genuine. She measured her worth by how much attention she received, how loved she felt, how wanted she was. When the final facade fell away, she felt emptiness unlike anything before. But in the quiet afterward, Clara began journaling, meditating, and listening to the subtle rhythms of her own heart. She realized she had been chasing projections, not people. In reclaiming her attention and care for herself, she began to rediscover a joy that was entirely her own. This joy was not dependent on someone else's approval. It existed because she nurtured it herself. Step 2. The power of solitude. Solitude, often feared as loneliness, becomes a powerful ally in reclaiming the heart. Being alone does not mean being abandoned. It can mean being present, deeply present to your own life. Listen to your thoughts without judgment. Honor your desires and aspirations. Reconnect with your values and your soul's truth. Solitude teaches that happiness is not contingent on external validation. It shows that your inner world is rich, expansive, and capable of sustaining love for yourself and others in healthy ways. Metaphor: the garden within. Imagine your heart as a garden. The weeds of betrayal, false affection, and misunderstanding once took root. But when you pause, reflect, and nurture yourself, new growth emerges. Tender shoots of self-respect, vibrant blooms of clarity, and roots deepened by lessons in discernment begin to flourish. The garden is yours to tend, and in its care you discover a beauty that no external approval could ever cultivate. Step 3. Reclaiming emotional sovereignty. Reflection leads naturally to empowerment. It is not simply about understanding others. It is about reclaiming authority over your own heart. Boundaries are sacred. You decide what is acceptable in relationships. Emotional responses are yours to guide. You choose reflection over reaction, clarity over confusion. Self-worth is internal, not external. No one's affection, or lack thereof, can define your value. Through this sovereignty, the heart stops being at the mercy of false love. Instead, it becomes a conscious participant in life, choosing who, how, and when to open to others. Picture the life ahead. one where your relationships are anchored in honesty, mutual respect and sincerity, where your heart no longer questions the intentions of those around you, because you have learned to read the signs, to trust your intuition, and to honor your boundaries, where affection is freely given and genuinely received. This life is possible. You are moving toward it with every step you take, every lesson integrated, and every moment you choose self-respect over compromise. Let me affirm this for you one more time. Your heart is not broken beyond repair. It is refined, strengthened, and awakened. The false loves you endured were lessons, not verdicts. They taught you discernment, patience, and the irreplaceable value of your own integrity. They showed you what is unworthy, so that you may fully recognize what is worthy. And now you are ready. Ready to give, ready to receive, ready to embrace love that is genuine, tender, and sustaining. Feel the space within you expand. Sense the lightness that comes when the weight of pretension falls away. Notice the freedom in your chest, in your mind, in your soul. It is the freedom of a heart no longer shackled by others' deception. A heart that moves confidently toward truth, connection, and beauty. You deserve relationships that honor your essence. You deserve words that mean what they say. You deserve touch that is tender, presence that is attentive, and hearts that match yours in sincerity. You deserve love that does not question you, manipulate you, or leave you in doubt, but affirms you, uplifts you, and celebrates you fully. And even if others pretended, even if some hearts faltered and left, remember, your heart is not diminished. It has endured, it has learned, and it is stronger for it. Each step forward is a declaration of your value. Each choice a reaffirmation of your worth. You have grown through reflection, healed through awareness, and now you carry a light that will guide you toward authentic connection. Take another deep breath and let this blessing settle. Let it anchor your spirit, warm your chest, and remind you, you are not defined by those who could not see your truth. You are defined by your courage, your resilience, and your capacity to love deeply and wisely. As you move forward, carry this with you. They may have pretended, but your heart is ready for truth. Your love is not incomplete, it is refined. Your life is not diminished, it is abundant with possibility. And your story, ever unfolding, continues with grace, strength, and the certainty that you are whole. You are worthy, and you are capable of receiving the love you truly deserve. This is the final blessing. You are seen, you are valued, you are capable of love that is real, and from this moment onward, you carry the knowledge that your heart was never broken beyond repair, only prepared for the love it was always meant to experience. They may have pretended, but your heart is ready for truth, and your story continues with grace,